You see, that's the trouble when we are not mindful. If I were more mindful, we would have a better session of meditation. But just because that I forgot to put my phone to silence, how much annoyance and disappointments, kind of a little irritation as well. You see, something trivial as forgetting to switch off the phone can cause. Imagine if we are not mindful of other things, it could have been major disaster. Anyway, good morning again, and thank you for coming. So, today, my talk, because this is a Dharma talk, so it will be a bit different from the public workshop, because I will be coming from the Dharma point of view, rather than secular point of view. So during public workshop, of course, I have to cater to the audience. So everything has to come from kind of more of a secular aspects, rather than strictly coming from Dharma point of view. So, I wanted to quote this. This is a quote from one of the great scholars and practitioner known as Gongdang Rinpoche. So Gongdang Rinpoche, this is one of his famous quote. Choje ji sanyi chaji bar chidyu ji tari chanyi yu. Tarangu rangi magur war choje na tari nine chis. So Ken is expert now, I don't need to explain. He has heard this so many times. So what it means is that before the day of your actual practicing Dharma comes, the death of today may come to death may come today. So tarango rangi mago vars. Don't kind of deceive yourself. And if you really are serious about practicing Dharma, then start it today, now. So this shows I think it explains, it shows or illustrates 2 points. One is this casual way of taking the Dharma practice, not really taking seriously. Many of us do not realize the importance to practice Dharma. And some of us, very few, those who realize that the importance of Dharma, and it's like, really I need to practice, but there is always something else taking the priority over it. Yeah, I see that it's so important, I need to practice Dharma. But first, I have something else to do. Let me finish my other things. Only then I will practice Dharma. So that's what Gongdang Rinpoche is saying, that your intention to practice Dharma tomorrow may never come, because the death may come today. So if you are serious about it, prioritize Dharma practice over everything else. So there's another phrase says that when we are alive and there's no imminent threat to our life, such as maybe sickness or anything, we are very casual and we are very joyful about going around doing other things. We are not fearful of death at all. But then when death comes, then we were really beating our chests. It says it's too late. We should be doing the other way around. When we are well, when we are capable, healthy enough to practice Dharma, when misfortune has not befallen us, that's the time to practice. So when we do that, when the time comes, we won't be so anxious and beating our chests, because we have already prepared to face that imminent death. So it's very important to prepare now, so that at least we have no regret. We have a saying that the great practitioners, they are happy, they are joyful, they look forward to death. Even the medium, they are not fearful of death. As a minimum, we should be able to have no regret. To say, okay, it has come, but I did my best. I have practiced whatever I could. I have spent or committed enough time that I possibly could. So I have no regret. But imagine, ask this question to ourselves. If this were our last day, would we be able to say that I have no regret, including myself? Many of us will be like, oh, I should have done this. I shouldn't have focused on that too long, too much. But luckily, we are still alive. We still have time. We still can choose to make the right decision. So this is all about preparing for our this, shall we say, final episode of this life. Of course, it's this life. So last class we discussed about this precious human rebirth, and we came to this conclusion that first of all, realizing the necessity to practice Dhamma. The reason being that we all seek happiness. Happiness does not come without cause. Not only it comes, it arises from causes and conditions, but concordant. The causes and conditions must correspond to the result. So that's why the one that really guarantees happiness and prevents suffering is the Dhamma practice, doing the virtuous actions. So first we need to see that. We need to realize the need to practice. Because if we don't see the need to practice, then we wouldn't even consider doing practice. So on the one hand, it's like Buddhists. This is for Buddhists. So Buddhist main theory or foundation or principle is that everything comes from causes and conditions. That also from concordant causes and conditions. So that's the main teaching. That's the principal teaching of Buddha. And all Buddhists accept that. They all know that. But from our action, it's like causes and condition has no, correlation or association with the results. So it is very obvious. We all seek happiness, but what do? Do we engage in the causes and conditions that give rise to happiness? We do not. We all don't want to experience suffering. But do we work hard to put an end or stop committing or cultivating causes and conditions that give rise to suffering and misery. No, we are very diligent when it comes to creating negative actions. Anger, for example. One day, how many episodes of anger? Was hatred, attachment, greed, jealousy, whatnot. It pops up so easily, and most of the time we are not even aware of it. We let it arise within ourselves. We don't even realize. Sometimes when we even realize, we feel quite proud sometimes. Some people think their anger is good. Because of this anger, it gives me this courage. But it's really a false bravery. So I know many of you may not agree with this. But when we do anything out of anger, the consequences is never really positive, never really good. You may get the short-term whatever goal, but there's always a long-term consequences. Let's say out of anger and you demanded something from your boss. Maybe the boss will agree this time, but then wait for all the coming days. You will never win. And the most dangerous part is that out of anger, you are not yourself. You are seized by this anger. You are no longer in control of yourselves. What you say, what you do, you are at the mercy of your anger. That's why we always have this regret. We always let us say, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. And that's why we said, I'm so sorry, I apologize, I was under the influence of anger. So this clearly shows that anger is never a good thing. So anyway, in one day, how many times anger arises? So just that. So that's why I said we need to. So I'm getting to the point that even though as a Buddhist, we should really have this conviction that causes and conditions give rise to results. Any result needs to have causes and conditions. But we don't do that. So that's why we really need to see that Dharma this really is essential, it's critical to practice Dharma because we all seek happiness. So in order to guarantee happiness, the practice of Dharma is crucial. And then we may think that if that is the case, but I don't have the capability. I may not be able to practice Dharma, but then we say that yes, first of all, we have achieved this human body which has the smartest brain of all mammals. Elephants, in terms of physically they are huge, but when it comes to the brain work, we are still much smarter and clever and more intelligent. So in that sense, we have the capability. And then we have all the other resources, facilities. If we really put our mind to it, if we are in a place where every day there is a bombing happening, like at the moment happening in some parts of the world, and then there are also, in some parts of the world, people are starving to death. They are struggling to stay alive just to make sure that they don't die from starvation, hunger, They don't even have enough water. So in such situation, such condition, of course, if you have to practice Dharma and you're going to do this, it's a bit difficult, it's challenging. Your basic needs are important. You need to first survive. But we are not in that kind of a condition. We are in America. Everything is at the tip of your hands, your fingers. So we have no excuse actually, in that sense. So we have the resources and abilities. And then it says that we must do in this life, because it is very difficult to achieve such opportunity. Recently somebody brought this up, and I thought that's something to ponder. He said that we say that it is very difficult to achieve human rebirth. And people may say that, critic may say that, oh, you see, there are so many, 700 billion people. But when somebody dies, like a Tibetan community, we always make prayers to be reborn in a Tibetan family or where there is Dharma. Family who practice Buddhism or something, then you are likely to meet Buddha Dharma. But they were saying that in our Tibetan trends also now, there are fewer and fewer parents or couples are having less child. Used to have 4 or 5 kids. Now they are reconsidering and they are choosing to have 1 kid or 2. So that already reduces the chances. So if the parents are not willing to have a child, so where are we going to be born to? So I thought that's a good point. So from just that, we can see our likelihood, our chances to be born in Tibetan family is less now. And then necessity to accomplishing it right away, as Drupa Rinpoche just said, that we have to practice right away. These are kind of a recap. We're not going to break now. Then we talk about the mindfulness of death. So this is the conclusion. Since death is definite, we must practice Dharma. Since the time of death is uncertain, starting right now, from now on, we must practice Dharma. Since the time of death, nothing except the Dharma will be of benefit. We have to commit to Dharma only. Okay, I think now we are here on the stanza 4. So those who are new here, so we are covering this particular kind of a poem. It is 70 stanza poem, so which is all about preparing for death. So basically going through all the things that will happen at the time of death or before the time of death, and then seeking blessings from the merit field or from your guru or whoever you take refuge in. So we have talked about preliminary practices. So that's why I emphasize on the first day that so preparing for death is not so simple. You just come for 1 hour talk and now I'm expert, I'm ready to die. So I said that that's not going to happen. So because we say that dying well is really about living well. So in order to live well, we need to learn how to live our life according to Dharma. So that's why there are these preliminary stanzas which emphasize on the importance of practicing Dharma and how to do it. So now we are coming to this second part where we are making requests. At the time of death, we may encounter a lot of obstacles. If they are in the way, if the obstacles in our way, then no matter how well we have prepared, these obstacles can thwart us from really generating the specific mindset at the time of death. So these four, there are four stanzas. This is all about requesting to remove or pacify any obstacles at the time of death. So here it goes. So I normally read the Tibetan and then back to the English translation. Where are we? Blessing number 3. Here we are. So this is about, Sungzin namdo chube chonggerdo mezang jungshi gyume pungbo-dang namshe dewe chijin natsobe neju dunye shewar chinji lobs. So this part falls under the requesting the blessings to remove any obstacles in meditating on the path and to cultivate a Dharma-oriented mind. So first is seeking for relief from the intense suffering at the time of death. At the time of death. So what happens is sometimes when we are nearing our death, there will be a lot of hallucinations. Especially there are stories where if you are, in Lamrim texts, there are a few stories. So one of the stories goes like this. So there was this particular person, he was a butcher. So he had been slaughtering animals. So of course, this is in Tibet. So in Tibet, the way they slaughter animal is different. It's not just a pressing button. It's really physically or manually really slaughter the animal. So as a butcher in his life, he must have killed so many animals. So when he was dying, so he has these hallucinations of oxen coming to attack him. So he keeps saying that, oh, please help me, the oxen are coming. So this is what happens. So imagine at the time of death, if you have this kind of hallucination, what will happen is that you will be really scared and fearful, if not angry, even what I call hatred. So it is very important not to have that kind of hallucination. And then there was a very funny story, but it really highlights an important point. So there was this guy, I think it's a monk. So he was, at the time of death, it's taking so long time for this guy to die. And then I think it's Gunnar which was invited at his deathbed. And then Gunnar Rinpoche, of course, he had known to have clairvoyance. Through his clairvoyance, he found out that he learned that this monk is somehow attached to the butter tea. So in monastery, so the tea that monastery serve, it has really thick layer of butter. So mainly because that is to help you have this, we have this barley flour to knead into a dough and then eat as a breakfast. So you need to have butter. So that's why the monastery tea is thick with butter. So you kind of pour it onto your samba, we call it. And then you have a breakfast for that. So he was, at that time, before dying, his mind went to that. And that's where his mind was attached. And that's why it's keeping him. So knowing that that is the case, so that Lama told him, oh, there are much better tea in Pure Land. And then he breathed his last. So if a monk can be attached to that one, imagine ordinary people. But we just need to release that. So that's why we always emphasize. So sometimes people are not that aware, especially in the West. So when somebody is dying, they will bring their pet to the dying person. So you don't know whether that dying person will linger, his mind linger with that animal, that pet. So we always advise, even though it is really sad that somebody is now passing, but we always encourage the family members not to cry and don't bring anything that can cause an attachment. So anyway, this is the one. In this city of deluded conceptions of subject and object, this illusory body composed of the four impure elements and the various conditions of death that brings about the separation of consciousness, may we be relieved from the overwhelming sufferings. Sometimes there will be a lot of pain, but here the medical field is so advanced that people barely feel real suffering. They will inject you with all kinds of drugs. On the one hand, you don't have the overwhelming suffering, the pain, but on the other hand, it dulls you. So I have been to see people who are dying, and in a way it's very sad. There's one case where, as a young lady, she was dying, maybe the doctor said 2 to 3 days. She was on such a high dose of, I think, morphine. So I was invited there. I couldn't talk to her because she is like calmed down. And then I was there and I recited some prayers, and then she started to move. As soon as they saw that the person is moving, oh, now he's having pain, give him another dose. It's like never making that person conscious. Because to them, the movement suggests there's pain. Do we know that is the case? But as the person is coming back to awareness, they will give more injection and then back there. So in a way, it's very sad. So you have this, what do you call? There is advantage or benefit in really, injecting the painkiller. It really helps out. But then on the other hand, there's no way. Sometimes we talk about helping the dying person, where you guide them, you tell them, okay, now meditate on this, now think about this. Trying to help generate a positive mindset. So for Tibetan people, I find the best and most effective is to tell them about His Holiness Dalai Lama. Because everybody has spontaneous faith, this positive faith or devotion, as soon as they hear the name of His Holiness. So naturally they will respond. But imagine if you cannot even hear, you are so drugged. We cannot even help that. Because of that, some patients, they chose not to be kind of sedated. So I can bear the pain. I don't want any. But in some cases, despite their illness, they have no pain. They are lucky people, lucky patients. Despite having this kind of terminally ill, but they don't feel that much pain. And some people really suffer so much pain. And I was told that in one of the Tibetan settlements, there was this guy who was known to be not a nice person, who is always cunning, cheating people and all that. When he died, people could hear him crying and mourning for nights and nights. There was so much pain. So that is also part of a hindrance. If you have that kind of excruciating pain, how can you try to cultivate a positive mindset? It is very, very difficult. So these are the things that we make prayers that all these do not happen. Making requests that may we have all the conducive conditions at the time of death, so that we will be able to cultivate a virtuous or positive mindset. So this one, there's a lot of words here, but basically it is explaining when we separate our mind. So firstly, in the city of deluded conceptions and subject and object, it seems very complicated. What do you understand of this? From this, just reading this, in this city of deluded, we're not talking about St. Paul City, isn't it? In this city of deluded conceptions of subject and object, this illusory body. So basically it's saying that this body, which is composed of 4 impure elements, the element of earth, air, fire, water, wind. So this, we call it the impure, the illusory body, is all came about as a result of this deluded conceptions. So we apprehend subject or object. So subject can be anything that our consciousness, like eyesight, eye consciousness, whatever it apprehends. So both the apprehender and the apprehended object, we apprehend them as having what we call intrinsic identity. So nothing from the Buddhist point of view, nothing exists from its own side. There is no intrinsic nature in anything. It is just an imputation of our mind. It's a projection given by our mind. There's nothing solid in there, nothing independent. Everything come about, we call it dependently arising. So somehow we are used to that. So because of that, that resulted into what is called, this is the ignorance. So ignorance, give rise to afflictive emotions. Then afflictive emotions give rise to engaging or committing in karma, negative karma. And then that results us in producing this body, which is illusory body composed of the 4 impure elements. So 4 impure elements. So impure, we are saying that, like earth, in a sense, that our body, the earth aspect of our body are such as the bones, the flesh, all this, the matter things. So these are impure in the sense that they came from our parents. It's not ours. And then the water aspects, all the fluids in our body. Then wind, the air that we breathe. And then what else? The warmth is the fire form, fire element form. So all these are result of those diluted conceptions. And then at the various conditions of death that brings out the separation of consciousness. So when the time comes, this consciousness has to separate. Buddhist view is that even though our body may be cremated or buried or whatever it is, it will disintegrate. But our consciousness moves on to the next line. So when that separation happens, when that separation comes, may we be relieved from overwhelming suffering. So basically making this request that may we be free from all these obstacles, all this, especially in this case, intense pain at the time of death. This is the diluted appearance. So let's have a break now, then we can continue. So now, another obstacle is when we have all this diluted appearance. So this is making requests for the blessing to pacify the delusive appearance. Chebara kyangbe lu ji kudu lu ji rong shin ji tao ngondo gyur tok zun chun ji rangso chebe se mi ji chunang shiwara shin ji lobs. When the cherished body fails us at the time of need, when the terrifying Lord of Death appears before us, when the weapons of the three poisons threaten our very life, may the deluded appearance of non-virtue be pacified. So this is a poem, so you can see the poetry in there. Basically saying that when at the time of death, all that deluded appearance be pacified. But they put in a poetry form. So when the cherished body fails us at the time of death, we have cherished this body so much, we have taken care of this body so much. We have committed time and resources to take care of this body. But at the time of need, it kind of fails us. It betrays us in a sense that all the organs kind of stops working. The digestion is not happening. Our lungs, the kidneys, livers, these are the main organs of the body that we have cherished so much. So now they fail us. So basically say is when we are really declining, when we are degenerating, when we are deteriorating. So when the terrifying Lord of Death appears before us, so Tibetan have this kind of a analogy that there is a physical death. We call it in India, in Indian language they call it Yamaraj. So there is this comes. So when the time comes, they come to fetch you. It's like the messenger from the death. It's time for you to leave now. Your time is up. Time in this world is up. So that's why it says, when the terrifying Lord of Death appears before us. So in Tibetan tradition, when we have this, we call it Lama, nowadays they call it Lama dance. So they have these depictions where you have this, the people who have lived their life ethically, who have done, or who have lived according to Dharma, or who have done more virtues than non-virtue in their life. So they have this to depict that, the positivity of that. So there will be a man dressed in white, and that will be like leading the person. And then on the other hand, there is this kind of dreadful, kind of devil-looking, wearing that mask to portray or illustrate that is really from the devil's realm, to bring down those who have committed negativities during their life. And when I was young, we used to go to watch this, and in a way it's very good. It really teaches young children that these are the two very different, contrasting consequences. On the one hand, this white guy is really treating you well. On the other hand, that was really cruel. And in a kind of menacing way, it will kind of drag you into that path. They even put down, instead of red carpet, they put down a white kind of a cloth to represent the white path, and then the other one, the black path. So these are to show that these are the two paths that we have to embark on, depending on how we lived during our life. So this is to say that when the terrifying Lord of Death appears before us, when the weapons of the three poisons threaten our very life, at that time we may experience all kinds of deluded appearances. Some people may have a vision or appearance or see some strange, really, really devil-looking. I don't know, there may be some. I will be curious to read any kind of a collection of those stories at the time of death. Normally we say that at the dissolution stage, at the first stage, when that earth element dissolves into the water element, people have this feeling that they are being pulled down, and their patients will be calling, "Can you please help me pull up?" Even though he's not singing, the patient is not singing, but he has that kind of sensation, that being pulled down. So likewise, there may be all kinds of stories. And sometimes when we go to see a patient, we know the person is not really himself. The person is hallucinating, telling stories about seeing their dead parents or friends. "Oh, I saw this and this. Oh, he was here." So we just take it as all because of the medication and the hallucination. Maybe they are going through this. Who knows? Some people have a very nice vision, nice hallucination, kind of a calming hallucination. Some may see, like those who are very devoted or practitioners may see their own guru, we call it teachers, or image of holy images. So those are very good to have visions, because that really calms your mind. Whereas if you are seeing kind of a very scary images, that's not what you want to experience at the time of death. So this is making requests. Of course, making prayer and requests is good, but that's not enough. So we have to make sure that we don't experience this. So this depends on how we live our life. If we live an ethical life, there's nothing to be fearful of. But some people, they spend their whole life really scamming people, cheating people, deceiving people, telling lies and all these things. Even though they do it outwardly, they come across as like they have no regret, but deep down they may have some. And all this manifests at the time of death. And then all that manifests into the form of these scary images. And imagine if you are seeing all that images. So this is the line where it says that may I be able to really generate a positive mind instead of having all those scary images. And then we have the requesting blessings to remember the Guru's oral instructions. Membe porshing rimdu dogdu me nyenam sundu rebe redache ranyi chicha tume gurweze lame tamga tempura chinjilops. When physicians can no longer help, here the Tibetan word is like physician has already given up. And all the pujas, they do lots of those rituals to help the sick. There are, incredible stories where pujas are done and people get well. People recover from their sickness. Especially we have something called spirit harms. So of course it's all karma, but the condition can be created by some spirits. So there were very many stories where you have some sickness, you go to see all kinds of doctors, they put you into all kinds of tests and examinations. In the end, I don't think there's nothing that we could find. And then they said, oh, it's your mind. And then you go to see those who do checkings. We call it divinations. They say, oh, there's some spirit, you have to do this and this and this. You do that, completely fine. When I was young, my father went to plow with the oxen. My aunt's field, and we have something called that is the Naga place. So you have a small kind of stones, they build kind of build something to represent their abode or their home or their palace or whatever it is. So they forgot to mention to my father that is the home of that particular Naga, is kind of a spirit, not to be touched. And father, not knowing that, so he plowed everything. And I still remember that I was very young. So I was very attached to my father. Of course, my father passed away a long time ago. So I used to always wait for my father when he goes away. So our house is here, and you can see the end point of that road and that road. So if he goes this way, I will be always watching that kind of curve. As soon as I see him, I would rush to meet him. And then, he was coming on work. We were climbing up our house there, and he said that, I'm having kind of pain here. That's like so fast. And next morning, he couldn't get up. And then I and my younger sister, we were sent to request a checking, That time I wasn't recognized as Rinpoche, so I don't know how to do checking. I'm just a normal young boy. So I think I must be 12 years old or something, and my sister maybe 5 years old. So we walked, I think it's 45 minutes to where that place, the pujari, we call it, one who conducts all these rituals, to do checking. So he did checking. He says that, where did he go yesterday? I said, he said, he has harmed Naga. So you have to do this and this. So we had to do a lot of pujas. And it's very interesting. One time, we have this practice of making offerings to monasteries to recite this and this prayer for the sake of that sick person. So one time, even after puja, all these things, still no much progress, no much improvement. So then they said, it's better to have a trance. So in our community, we have people who will trance. So we invited that, and then they trance and said, oh, and what will happen when trance, they will invite the Naga, whatever spirit, to come into you. And then they will tell you why they are angry and what they did. It's very interesting. It says that, I have already taken care of that red ox. And they said that the 2 oxen that plowed, one already dead. Obviously, they took care of it. And they says that every time I buried you under this rock, these monks from that monastery comes and pulls him out of it. So that's when they were like, wow, that's how puja, this prayer works. So we have been making offerings to the monastery to recite these prayers. And obviously it has an effect. And he says that every time I put that big rock on him, and these monks come and lift it and pull him out. And he says that you've done this, so of course we have to, what can we fix it? So he said, do this and this. And then they had to do some particular procedure whereby the spider involved and all this is funny. And we brought it, of course we built another house for them. And 2 days, back to normal. So where did this come from? Actually, I don't know where. When physicians no longer help, when loved ones, I don't know where I came that from. What was I talking about in relation? Why was I raising this? Huh? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, so there are cases where people recover. I'm talking about because in Tibetan, there's this thing called Membe Porshin, Rimdru Dodume, when rituals have no effect. So in this translation, it didn't cover. So that's what I was talking about. Sometimes ritual can be very effective. But this is where no longer now, no matter whatever you do, even the Buddha appears in front of that patient, cannot be saved. So that's the time we're talking about. When loved ones hopes for our survival fate, so even your close friends, loved ones, so they have decided that, okay, the person is living. So for me, I find that those who die slowly, especially with terminally ill, I think it's much more bearable for the families, the surviving families. Imagine if somebody dies suddenly in an accident. It's like disbelief. And when person, especially like cancer, so you can see the progression or this what do you call the deterioration. So sometimes you feel like better to go because there's so much suffering involved. And also the surviving family, they have time to prepare. So this is when they decided that there's no hope. And when we are powerless to do anything more, there's nothing else you can do. May we remember the Guru's instructions. This is provided you have some Dharma understanding, that you have practiced something. That's when we are saying that may I be able to remember the Guru's instructions. If you have not listened to any Guru's instruction, if you have no instructions to remember, imagine. Remember we read last class about how Steve Jobs, he was saying, when I'm just lying in my bed, nearing this end, I realized that I have nothing else. So this is for people who have at least have studied something, practiced something. so that you are trying to remember all those instructions, trying to remind yourself all those practices. But imagine if you have nothing at all, what would be your mind like? For many people, I think it's like denial. Any challenges, any misfortune to overcome, first we'll need to have acceptance. But if you have no Dhamma or little Dhamma, it is difficult to even have that acceptance. Many people keep asking, why me? From the Buddhist point of view, it says that, oh, it's time. I'm so grateful that it didn't happen before. Given our condition, given in the existence we are in, it should have happened before, way before. But I'm so grateful that it didn't happen before. It is happening only now. So many of these great practitioners in our tradition, many die from all kinds of sickness. You wonder how come. Like my own teacher, my own guru, passed away from Parkinson. In our community, that was like not very well known. Those were in 1990 or was it 2000? Before 2000. So Parkinson is not that common. But mentally, even though physically it's very challenging, you lose all the strength in your muscles. You cannot sit. And later, what happens is even swallowing becomes difficult. And he would fall and they couldn't get up unless there's somebody there. But mentally at peace, as if nothing has happened. So there are so many stories where great practitioners, even though they are suffering from cancer, this cancer, that cancer, physically there is pain and suffering, but mentally there isn't. I think there's this story by His Holiness that one time His Holiness has to rush to hospital because of, I think it's what do you call, some abdomen, appendicity or something to do with the abdomen. There was so much pain, acute pain, excruciating pain. And His Holiness was having so much pain. But then as the car drove by, it passes through the state of Bodh Gaya, Bihar. So there are so many destitute people. So His Holiness saw an old man who was just lying out on the road. And obviously he is in a lot of pain or sick, but nobody is caring. And it really got into His Holiness. And of course, His Holiness, there's so much compassion towards that and kept thinking about that old man. And His Holiness says that when he arrived in hospital, it's like there was no pain. His whole thought went to the suffering of that person. So he was able to divert that. And I think recently, I think Geshe Lakto was giving an interview, and not interview, he was just relating this story that somebody asked him that, you monks, you live alone in your room, don't you feel lonely? So he says that even though physically we live alone, but mentally we are connected with all the sentient beings. There's no time to feel lonely. That's true in a sense, isn't it? So when you are so concerned about the welfare of others, you have no real time to obsess on yourself, your condition. You don't feel that sense of loneliness, even though you have been living your whole life alone. So these are important things. So we really have to kind of examine our life and see whether when the time comes, whether there's anything that we can go back and try to remember. If our mind is blank, there's nothing to go back to. It's so sad. Then nothing else, you're just looking at the 4 bare walls of a hospital. And maybe there's a ceiling. Just looking at that blank. If you have something prepared from now, at least you can try to recollect and at least kind of reassure ourselves. So this is the prayer that may we remember the Guru's instruction at the time of death. So these are all obstacles. You may have studied for so many years. You have received so many instructions. But at the time of death, for whatever reason, if you are unable to remember the instructions, then all that years of studying and putting effort, investing time in all this, is kind of wasted. So it is important. So many Tibetans, what they do is, they will recite this as part of their daily prayer. And then every time, they do make the request. Not only make the request, make this determination that I will make sure that I will remember these instructions. Finally, requesting for blessings to die with confidence, joy, and fearlessness. Sadness abe senor shudu lu zeshin tungwe nyendang tendeche nyam ngene su chigbur robeze gadu tengdang tempera chinji lobs. When the food and wealth amassed through, how do you read this? Avarice are left behind. Out of greed, we have amassed so much wealth. We have cheated people. We thought that we were so clever. And then in the end, whatever we have to leave behind. We cannot take with us even a piece of string. When forever separated from beloved and grieving kin, we have done so much for our loved ones. In the name of our loved ones, we have committed negative actions. We have killed. We have lied. We may have stolen things just in the name of our loved ones. But when the time comes, we have to go alone. When you are alive, you may be surrounded by hundreds of people. Some big families, when they have these events, they have hundreds of people, 17 grandchildren and this and that. But when the time comes, we have to leave alone. A teacher may have thousands of students. When the time comes, the teacher has to go alone. When departing alone for that perilous place, because we don't know. This is kind of an unknown journey. May there be the confidence of joy and delight. How can we have that joy and delight if we have not prepared for it? If we have not lived our life well? So, of course, Dharma practice is good if you are able to commit years and years into actual practice, or maybe even doing retreat and all that. That's very good. Even if you cannot do that, at least if we are able to live our life ethically. So here ethically means really putting other people's concern first. So we have these ethical disciplines mainly based on preventing, avoiding harms to others. For example, killing. We refrain from killing because killing causes harm to others. Stealing. We refrain from stealing because it causes harm to others. Likewise, all those sexual misconducts, lying, divisive speech, all these causes harm to others. So because of that, we try to restrain ourselves, refrain from engaging in these activities. So if we are able to do that, that's the bare minimum. We can at least die peacefully. But if not, all that will come back to haunt us at the time of death. Our monk friends, they said, oh Rinpoches, they went to scare people. It come across like this, because when saying all this is like I'm really kind of scaring you and kind of fear-mongering, is it? But these are real things. We have fear and we have fear. Some fear cannot be helped. If you are fearful of just dying, we cannot do anything about it. Whether you are fearful or not, death will come anyway. But whereas these, you can prepare. You can do something about it. You cannot prevent death, but you can make sure that you die or you face the death with dignity, if not joyfully. So there's a difference. We may be fear-mongering, but in a good sense. Oh, another break? Okay, I think since we have 15 minutes, I wanted to emphasize this. This is reiteration. So we covered this in that public workshop, but public workshop, it has to be secular approach. So here now we can bring in Dharma. So these are the 5 things that we can incorporate or integrate into our daily practice so that it can help us to have delight or what do you call it, peaceful death or die well. So these are 5 powers, 5 things that we can do. So the first is the power of determination. I think in our public workshop I used the word propelling, but I think this translation is better. It's more about having this determination, strong determination. So now when we're coming from the Dharma point of view, it is that our daily practice as a Mahayana practitioner, our practice is always the bodhicitta, is this altruistic mindset, really intention to benefit others. So that one, we have to make determination that at all time, whether you are alive, whether at the time of death, even at what we call the intermediate stage, may I be able to have this generation of this bodhicitta mind. Not only pray, you have this set up this determination. I will remember. So the benefit of this is that when the time comes, maybe you may be kind of intoxicated by all kinds of drugs. But because you have this intention, this determination, when the time comes, you will be able to remember I think it's okay to share. I'm not boasting, but I just wanted to share this. Maybe it will help. So one time I have been very diligent about meditating the 8 stages of mind. And it always begins with this determination that when the death comes, may I be able to seize the opportunity of this clear light. May I be able to recognize each stages, and when the clear light stage, the final stage arises, may I be able to recognize it and then seize that opportunity to meditate. So I've been doing this before going to bed. I will go through these 8 stages, and then even I have to wake up in the middle of the night, go to the loo, come back before falling into. And the power of doing that is that one time I had a dream. I was dreaming of dying. In that dream, I was saying, okay, I'm dying now. I better focus, and I better remember to recognize this. So I woke up with that, and I thought, wow, that's the power of familiarity. That's the power of determination. So if this continues to happen, I will be okay. Because when the time comes, it looks like I will be able to. But of course, depending on whether I will continue doing this determination as well as familiarity. So that's what happens. It's important. And then the power of white seed. This refers to taking care of your unfinished business. So I think I mentioned before. So I have a Lama friend, Rinpoche, another Rinpoche. So when I went back to India, so we are quite a good friend. So he told me that, okay, he says that he has an appointment audience with His Holiness Dalai Lama. So he said that I'm going to offer most of my whatever money he has. He said that a few years back, he said that he made half of whatever he has to His Holiness. So now this time he said, I'm going to see His Holiness and offer most of it. He said, I'm going to give a little bit for myself. So that's what we do, the practitioners, because this is to avoid attachment. So we sort out things. So for the Buddhist practitioners, we normally make offering to your guru or to a monastery or to charity. Just disperse your wealth so that when the time comes, you have nothing to worry about. So even if we cannot do that, at least prepare our will. Give clear instructions what to do, because we see we hear and see all kinds of stories. When the parents dies, siblings fight over property. And then lawsuits, court cases. It's so sad. Sometimes the body is still there, but they are fighting. They didn't even have the funeral yet. That's because you haven't prepared. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any conflicts. So this is about taking care of all this. So you can see the importance of acceptance. So if you have the acceptance of death, that you will be no longer, you won't live long, you will start to prepare. So it's very important. So when it came to my father, he had cancer. So it's the throat, larynx. So I had this dilemma, whether I should tell him that he has cancer or not. Because on the one hand, you are worried that if you tell him that it's cancer, somehow people's mind, cancer equals cancel. It's like That's it, now cancelled. Life is cancelled. But if you are in initial stage, you can still recover. It's treatable. But people like my father, they have very little understanding. So there was this fear that if I tell him the truth, then maybe he will kind of develop hopelessness. That is not good for your recovery. On the other hand, if I don't tell him, he may not prepare for the next life. He may still assume that he is living, he's recovering. So that's why I was told that in hospice service, you have to be honest. You have to tell what it is. So anyway, I decided to tell him. And I'm glad that I did that, because since then, he really prioritized. He just left all these worldly things, and he is like the main bread earner. But he stopped all doing that, his farm work, doing that, and he really focused on his Dhamma practice. So for 2 years he was able to focus on his Dhamma practice. So at least, so all this comes from acceptance. If you still are at the denial stage, you will not make preparations for the next life, the next journey. So that's very dangerous. And then the power of remorse. So this entails really, in the Buddhist point of view, is more of a doing purification practice. So in the past, we may have transgressed, we may have committed a lot of negative actions. Now this is like a remedial action. We will try to do lots of purifications to purify all the negativities that we have committed in the past. And then the power of familiarization. All these need to have this habit or the familiarity. So one needs to be repeatedly doing this. For example, the power of determination. We should be doing repeatedly setting up this determination so that the effect will carry over even when we are kind of deluded or in kind of a sedated state. So just doing one time is not enough. So every day we have to make the decision. We have to make the determination that, okay, I will have a positive mindset at the time of death. So even just forget about the bodhicitta or the altruistic mindset. Even we were able to have that intention that I will have a positive mindset at the time of death. And if we really familiarize with that, if we repeatedly engage in that, when the time comes, at least that will be our forefront in our mind. There may be other things, we will be able to think that, and then we will try. Otherwise, there are so many distracting things at the time of death. We will not even remember. So the importance of familiarization, that's the importance of familiarization. And then the power of aspiration. We also have to make prayers. May I be able to have a positive mindset at the time of death, in bardo or intermediate state, or every time, any time, to have that. And then also make prayers to be reborn. As a Buddhist, we believe in rebirth. To be born in a condition that is conducive to Dhamma practice. So these are the 5 powers that we can cultivate, and this will contribute, I believe this will contribute greatly in dying well. Oh, this is the one. When bodily strength. Okay, let's finish this and then. Luigi Tobshoro, Kana Kamshing Ze. Okay, I think this goes on to the stages of dissolutions. So we will discuss this in the next class. When bodily strength fails and the mouth and nose dry and contract, when the four elements dissolve in the succession. So when the four elements dissolve in succession, all these the signs, the bodily strength, failing of the bodily strength, and then the drying of the mouth, nose, and all this happens. So when the heat withdraws, this is the fire element, and the breath becomes labor, this is the wind. May a strong, virtuous mind arise. So we stop here for today.